there's one thing that I am, besties, it's probably the most pretentious Animal Crossing YouTuber. I can't say for sure, but I'm fairly certain it would be me. Hey besties, it's Nat, back again with another video on my post-apocalyptic city core themed island of Tokyo 3. Happy Pride Month, besties. Happy Pride to all of you watching. If you're watching this in the future and it's not Pride, well, now it's Pride. I've decreed it, so it is real. As you can see, today I am dressed as Kaoru Nagisa, and in honor of Pride Month, we are going to be flooding half of my island. Now, if you're in the know and you recognize my little outfit here, this is a Neon Genesis Evangelion themed island. You do not have to have seen the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion to understand my island. It is first and foremost a post-apocalyptic city core themed island. However, I am recreating a lot of iconic scenes from the show on the island, and today, for Pride Month, I want to recreate this scene from episode 24, where Shinji and Kaoru are sitting by the water talking, and instead of using the waterscaping tool, I wanted to push myself and use this beautiful custom design by Mei Argento that looks like water that's like coming to shore. So this is going to be a little different than my previous lake builds that I've done on my other island, Nautilus. So get excited for that, besties. This build was really challenging. I pushed myself a lot with this one, but I think it turned out really good. So if you want to see what I came up with, you're in the right place, bestie. We're going to get into the build in just a second, but there's one last thing I want to bring your attention to, and that is this fundraiser for Ibrahim and his family. Ibrahim has Down syndrome, and he and his family live in Gaza, and they were unfortunately displaced, and their home was destroyed, and they're now fundraising both to get to safety and to one day eventually rebuild their home. So I'll have that linked in the description, and I'll also mention it again at the end of the video as well. But with all that being said, you know what to do, besties. Grab yourself a snack, grab yourself something to drink, and let's get right into it. Hello again, besties. It's VoiceOver Nat coming to you live over this beautiful VOD footage. Actually, no, I'm not coming to you live in this moment. That was a lie, but this was live. This footage was live. I was live in the past. This bit, this de-terraforming bit, this demolition bit, was recorded on stream. We had a lovely stream where we played Snufkin Melody of Moomin Valley, aka Game of the Year, aka Happy Pride Month. I'll put a pin in Snufkin. We'll come back to the Snufkin game because Snufkin game is great. But we had a little extra time on our hands, and I was like, you know what? Let's do some demolition and begin the teardown of the back part of my island in preparation for this build. And we also had a bit of an incident where I tried to play like lo-fi Animal Crossing music over the stream, but it wasn't working, and it literally took me like 20 minutes to figure out. And we ended up just using the in-game music, and then at some point during the stream, someone was like, I'm sick of this in-game music, change the time of day. And so I changed the time of day. So when the time of day changes, it's that one chatter, the one person in chat who said that. I don't remember who you are, but you know who you are. Yeah, we are tearing down the back top right portion of my island. Yeah, I think my map is going to come up on stream in a minute, but I'll put a map up and explain to y'all what's going on with this build. Also, just want to let y'all know, oh, there's the map. Just want to let y'all know, this video is sped up to 6 times speed, which is faster than I normally do it, because this build took forever. You're gonna see now, I cut out a lot of this section of me getting rid of all the terraforming because it was just so long. It was so long, and also like who cares? It's satisfying. Obviously, it looks fun, but oh, there we go, time of day changed. It's satisfying to look at, but it's not compelling building content, which you're all here for, obviously, because I'm such a compelling builder. God, besties, I'm a little rusty with this voiceover. I had, as always, the demons that live in my computer were testing me when I was trying to record this, and also the demons who live in the power grid in my neighborhood were also testing me, and the power kept going out, and it was a hot mess. And that's also partially why this video is going up like halfway through Pride Month. Not the only reason why. I mentioned this on like my social media and on Discord and stuff, but it's just life stuff, besties. It's just life stuff, and not like fun story time life stuff, though I do have some stories. Speaking of the power grid, speaking of the city of Atlanta infrastructure, we'll get into that, besties. But yeah, I've had to re-record this a couple of times, and it took me a while to like just get the build the way that I wanted it to be. And also, literally while I was editing this footage that you're watching now, before I started recording this voiceover, I saw things that I wanted to change that I will probably go back and refilm the outro with those things changed. So, you know, she's always a work in progress. As I've said before, I have trouble putting the build down. I am not good at that. And this is one of those times where I had to put it down so it could go up and the people could enjoy it. And I hope that you do enjoy it. I actually think that I enjoy it a lot more than I thought I would. There was a point where I was like, oh, this build, this is a flop. This is a flop. I'm in my flop era. I wish it's Pride Month. I can't be in my flop era. Not on Pride Month. I can't. Well, I guess the first half of Pride Month was my flop era, but once again, don't worry about that, besties. I'm fine. Everything's fine. It was just my flop era. But the build she was in rough shape. She was looking rough. But actually, once I like got all the little like extra like decorations and things together, and it really came together in the end. And I'm quite happy with it, actually. I think it looks really, really cool. But yes, as I mentioned in the intro, this is based off of the scene from episode 24 of Evangelion, where Shinji and Kaoru meet, and they're sitting on the beach, quote unquote. Actually, let me explain this really briefly before we finish the terraforming section. Basically, without spoiling anything, Evangelion is a show about kids and giant robots fighting big alien monsters, and those fights create a lot of collateral damage in the city, Tokyo 3. So there's a lot of flooding, and there's lots of big explosions, and this is an area where there was a big explosion that caused a lot of flooding, and so it sort of created like an artificial beach that wasn't there before, and that is where the scene takes place. So now that you understand that context, you can look at this beautiful blank canvas that we've created that we are now going to turn into that fake beach. So we're starting off by placing down the sand. It was actually super helpful to reference Mayor Gento's Instagram while I was doing this part. I was thinking about using the light colored dirt instead of sand, but I looked at their Instagram, and the code looks way better when it's layered on top of sand than it is on top of dirt. And I wasn't quite sure, once again, because it's like, it's not a real beach, it's not supposed to be a beach, but it does look like there's sand like in the scene that they're in. So it's like, obviously like sediment was moved. I don't know, besties. It's a cartoon from the 90s. It's not realistic in any way, but I just trying to make it look good. And luckily I had talented creators like Mayor Gento to help me make it look good. So here we are. This is going to be a lot of placing down sand and later placing down water. So this is probably a good time for me to explain like the geography of my island. So this island is not like a one-to-one recreation of Tokyo 3. I don't know if that's possible to do. Like, I don't think that there's like a map of Tokyo 3 necessarily. And also, if you've seen the show, the city has like levels. There's like layers to it, like underground layers. So we can't do that in Animal Crossing. I wish we could. There are some people who have some skills where they could really make it look like that, but I don't have those skills. So we're just recreating areas in sort of like approximately the correct place, just to like recreate the visual of those areas and make you think about Evangelion. But we're starting off by placing down this gorgeous and stunning code, which I love so much. You can see the edges, like the color of the edges. It looks better on top of the sand than it does on top of the dirt. So the sand was the right choice. And Ribot is hanging out with us, and he's just so cute. I love him. Once again, shout out to my train build, which I'm obsessed with. If you haven't seen that build, I'll link it in the card, but I am obsessed with my train station, and that is Ribot's domain. He is the station master. So all my Ribot fans out there, check out the train station video for more Ribot content. But as you can see now, I am extending the road out farther, and you've seen me do this in plenty of builds on this island at this point. So while I'm doing that, I'll explain a little bit more about Tokyo 3, the map, the actual like the geography of the city. So as I said before, we are in the top right-hand corner of the city. To the left of us is the entrance, or like the top of the entrance with all the buildings. And then directly below us is Town Hall. So I am not quite sure how I'm going to fit this now that I've actually put it together. And there may come a time, besties, where I have to take the entire island and push it slightly to the left, but I don't actually know how I'm going to do that because the train station is also like fully at the edge of the island. So we'll see how it goes, besties. I have a plan. I have a vision, and hopefully it works out. But I want to put the school on the right of this build. So obviously Evangelion, it's about kids. They're in middle school, and so they have a school, and we're going to build the school. And I want to put that to the right of this build. And then way to the left, past the entrance build, above the train station, I want to put Misato's apartment and all of the player character houses. Once I upgrade all of the exteriors, I'm going to put all of them and build like a fake apartment block over there. And we're also going to have another water feature, I think, where I'm going to put Nerve headquarters, aka the pyramid object. The pyramid, do you get that from Gulliver or from Red? I don't actually know. I feel like you get that from Gulliver. But either way, that pyramid is going to be our Nerve headquarters. So I originally wanted to include that in this build, especially because I think there's like another scene. There's another scene where Misato is spying on Kaoru, and it's like this same area, but from a different perspective, and you can see Nerve headquarters. So I thought about including that in this like little tableau that we're creating right now. I don't know what else to call it, besties. That was so pretentious. A tableau? Are you serious? If there's one thing that I am, besties, it's probably the most pretentious Animal Crossing YouTuber. Like, I'm fairly certain. I can't say for sure, but I'm fairly certain it would be me. But that was my vision. That was my vision, my pretentious vision for this island. And in my hubris, I thought that I would have enough space based on like the map that I had drawn in my head when I was like picking the actual map, when I was like resetting to find a layout that I liked and that I thought would fit. And now that I'm actually on the ground building, I'm now realizing my mistake and not realizing how much space I had. And to be fair to me, I'm building a bunch of stuff that I never built before. I'm building a bunch of stuff, I'm using codes I've never built before. So to be fair to me, how was I to know that everything would be much bigger than I thought it was supposed to be? But that's okay. It's gonna be fine. I just have to keep telling myself that. And to be honest, based on how this build turned out, I think I'm right. I think it will be fine. I just have to, take my time and not worry about it and trust the process. This is all about trusting the process. This whole build, the thing that I thought was going to be difficult, which was like getting the water to look right, ended up being super easy. I figured it out really quickly. The code ended up being much easier to work with than I thought it would be. And the thing that tripped me up was the background. The mountains in the background of the image. That is what got me, besties, and that is the reason that this build took me as long as it did to make, because I kept experimenting and it kept going wrong. Oh yeah, but I forgot to mention the part below us, the part below the town hall, that is going to be like the city core area. Like we're going to put a lot of the villager houses are going to go down there, and it's going to be like Nook's Cranny is going to go down there, and all of that stuff. And I have an idea too, because my museum is not, it's not, what's the word? Renovated, developed? It's not upgraded. That's the word, upgraded. There we go, besties. I can come up with tableau, but not upgrade. What's wrong with me? Anyways, my museum isn't upgraded, and I have a plan for that as well, but that is all going to go down there. So if you're really into the city core and not so much into the Evangelion, you're going to like that area a lot. But we'll worry about that later. We'll worry about that when that video comes, because right now we're in this video, and we're working on my lake area. Speaking of lakes, as I mentioned before, I built a lake on my previous island of Nautilus, and I learned a lot from building Nautilus, and I'm glad that I built that island and finished it before I started this island, because just building an entire island and like experimenting with like different views and stuff really taught me like how the game works, like how the draw distance works and how much you can see from side to side versus like forward and backward, like how far you can see or how wide you can see, how the camera works, all of that stuff. It was really valuable information, and a lot of it did not apply to this build. A lot of the lessons that I learned building my lake on my other island did not end up applying to this build, and that's part of why it took so long. But right now we're placing down, the statue. This is important. So this statue in real life is called Nike of Samothrace? Samothrace? I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Nike of Samothrace. And in the episode, Kaoru is sitting on top of a thing in the water that looks exactly like this statue. And this item being in the game is one of the reasons why I was like, I need to build an Evangelion island, because I had the image in my mind of like building a giant lake and putting this in the middle of it, and I wanted to do that so badly. Same with like the pyramid. I wanted to have that be Nerve headquarters and have like a view of Nerd headquarters like through the water. And I'm curious if this was like an intentional aesthetic reference, because some of the aesthetic references in Evangelion are unintentional, like all the crosses and stuff, that was sort of just like for vibes. But other references like Beethoven were very intentional. So I don't know what was going on in Anno's head when he had this image, or he made this image. It's not the Nike of Samothrace in the show. It's not that. It's like I said, it's a show about giant robots and giant creatures fighting, and it is the remains of a fight. Something happened during a fight. I'm not going to say specifics. I'm not gonna say specifics, but something happened in a fight and this was left behind and he is sitting on it. So yeah, that was one of the main inspirations for this island, and I was so happy to like finally put it down. It was like, wow, I'm actually building an Evangelion island after all this time. This was really exciting, even though it was then followed up by an immense amount of stress as I tried to figure out how to make it look like the scene from the show, which ended up being the hardest part, especially the background, which once again, we'll get into that. But here is like a view. That whole area I didn't actually need to clear out. I'm going to use it later, so it's useful that I did it now. But I didn't need to clear that far because the actual view is not that wide. Once again, should have known that from all that time that I spent figuring out how the camera works in this game. Here's another little bit of experimentation where I was like, how far exactly can I see? Because the road code that I'm using is very wide, so it kind of it digs a lot into this view. Like if I wanted to build a third level up here, I thought about making this into like a fake building, and then I also forgot that I can't go up on the 4th level, which is very rude, actually. Animal Crossing, who are you to tell me how high I can go? Like, leave me alone. But yes, a lot of this video is me checking the camera. And that was the case with the train station video, and it is even more the case now because this build all revolves around perspective. That is one of the biggest challenges that I've faced making this island with all the builds that I've done so far, not just this one, but this one in particular was a doozy. It was an absolute doozy. But here I am actually messing with the other challenging thing about this build, which was figuring out how to use the water code. As you can see, I'm trying to like layer it on top of the sand, and I don't want it to look wonky. So that was challenging to figure out how to like get it to cut off in the right spot. But hold that thought for a second, because we're about to cut to Ritsuko and Yui kind of sizing each other up a little bit, which honestly, like, you know, like I opened my game and I was like, oh, the girls are fighting, and they were, and they are. But yeah, the water code was a challenge. I'm doing another like perspective thing because you're gonna see me try to add the pyramid, the nerve headquarters pyramid to this build, and I ended up removing it, and we're gonna put it somewhere else on the island. But I was trying to figure out how the build was gonna look from the side because I wanted to put it like on the side, but I also did not want to use a million tiles of this code because I only needed the bottom half. And I'm running out of space. I am in desperate need of more space for codes. Nintendo, please. I know they already gave us literally double the amount of codes that we used to have. Remember we had 50 codes? That was crazy, honestly. Okay, but let me actually give you guys helpful information. So if you didn't already know, transparent tiles and opaque tiles act differently in this game. So as you can see, the transparent tiles are like the ones that actually wrap around the sand. Those are transparent because half of it is transparent. As long as a tile has one transparent pixel, it will conform to the shape of an in-game path. So if you have an in-game path underneath it, it'll conform to the shape of that in-game path. But if you have an opaque tile, it lays down directly on top of it without conforming. So I had to like shape the sand in a way where it wouldn't like intersect with the transparent tiles because the opaque tiles were the only ones that covered them up. Oh, there's my train station. There's Ribbon enjoying his train station. You should check out my train station. Anyways, I switched it to nighttime because the other scene that uses this location, that references this location in the show, takes place at night. So the two scenes that have this tableau, I guess that's what we're calling it now, one of them is at sunset and one of them is at nighttime with Shinji and Misato. So that was sort of the reference that I had visually for this area, but then I also had to make the build look good during the daytime because I'm pretty sure that I'm going to post the dream address during the daytime. So that added another layer of complexity to this because the sky looks different at different times of day and the draw distance is different at different times of day, which is confusing, but it made it much harder to do this build. This section that you're about to see is a bunch of me experimenting with things that I ended up not keeping. The first of which is me trying to make the top of the statue actually accessible because obviously Kaoru is sitting on top of it, and I know that there's like a glitch that you can do where you can like walk on top of things that you don't normally walk on and stuff like that. I don't know how to do that, and I'm not about to try that. I'm not about to try that with this build, but I tried making it so you could stand on it with like terraforming, but I didn't like how you could see the terraforming from the back, and it wasn't tall enough, and it wasn't gonna work. Same with the pyramid. Pyramid will go somewhere else. We'll have nerve headquarters on the island somewhere, but it's not gonna be here. And then in a second, I'm gonna try burying the statue. I had a moment where I was like, the statue in the show, I keep saying it's a statue. In the show, it's not a statue, as we've discussed. But for the purpose of this build, the statue is like underwater, like it's half sinking underwater. So it's like, what if I raise the entire build up and put the statue on the first level and the water on the second level? And that was a stupid idea, and I'm glad that I didn't do it, because you can see the cliff and the dirt, and it would have been bad. And imagine like how long that would have taken me to like raise the entire ground up a level. That would have been terrible. That would have been stupid and a bad idea. And I'm glad that I tested it out before I tried it, because I would have been very upset if I spent all that time terraforming this whole area again. But here we're getting back on track. That was a whole section of experimenting, and things went wrong. That's another thing that like I feel like the other thing that I'm known for as an Animal Crossing builder is trying things and then getting rid of them and trying again, both in like different videos where I like renovate a previously built area, especially on Nautilus. I did that all the time. Tokyo 3 not so much yet. Like I said, there may come a day where we have to push the entire island to the left, but I'm praying that day does not come. But I'm used to fidgeting with things and changing my mind and not knowing what I'm doing, and this build is a perfect example of that. This whole build was me trying and failing and eventually succeeding, but mostly failing. And right now, actually, we have some success and some failure at the same time. I have the Leaning Tower of Pisa and I have the Broken Pillar as my fake buildings, because obviously it's a flood and the water is full of like destroyed buildings that are like half falling down. And I feel like the angles that those are at looks really realistic and like matches the image really well. I tried some other fake buildings or like debris sort of scattered around later on in the build, but none of them look as good as those objects, so we're gonna use those more. So that was a success. That was a success. The cave object was a failure. Normally the cave object is my best friend and I love the cave object, but in this instance the texture of it was so visible from the shore and from like the road that I just didn't like how it looked. That was another challenge with this, is that I needed the perspective to work from two different locations that were on two different levels, and that was hard. That was hard. I needed it to look uniform from higher up and farther away, and also lower down and closer up. And it drove me a little bit crazy. But here we are finally starting to crack the code when I discovered the standee objects, the mountain standee, and later on the tree standee, which ended up being the saving grace of this entire build. But I like the uniformity of that way better, because we want like the mountains in the background to look like they're in the background, and the texture and the color of the cave object was just not it. It was just not it. It was too detailed, and like you could see it there. It just didn't look right. And I tried to like mix and match them a little bit as well. Didn't work. I ended up going full mountain and tree standee for this build, and it ended up being the best option, even if it was very difficult. Another bad, I guess, stubborn habit that I have as a builder is attempting to reinvent the wheel when there's so many talented creators in this community who do stuff like this, like who work with perspective and like builds like this on their island. And it's not that like I'm like, oh, I'm so much better, like I can figure it out on my own. Like, it's not that type of stubbornness, but it's more of like my desire to figure it out and to like get down to like the nuts and bolts of it and like place down the objects myself and see how they look. That overrides the common sense of just like looking up a tutorial of how to build a fake mountain. You know? Like, I could do that. And I also have. Like, I reference other people's builds all the time, and I shout out people who inspire me all the time. Like, you guys know my motto, I love to steal. So I don't know what compels me in instances like this to just figure it out on my own and like reinvent the wheel when it's not necessary and takes way longer. But I am happy for the experience. But I also just think that perspective builds are never going to be intuitive for me. It's always going to take me a long time, and I'm always going to have to experiment and like check my angles and check the camera. It's never going to come naturally to me. And I just have to accept that about myself. But if anything taught me that, it was this build. Absolutely. And we're finally at least getting to the point where I'm sort of understanding what I want it to look like and what objects I need to use and like how I need to rearrange them. At least we're getting to that point, because before I was just messing around. But you know what? I'm sick of talking about the build. This video has been so much of like actual like Animal Crossing content of like explaining how I'm building and like the objects I'm using and like the techniques and everything. And part of me is like proud of that, because I so often just ramble about nothing. And this is sort of the reverse of that, where I am definitely rambling, but it is about the build. So hopefully some of the stuff that I've rambled about makes sense and is helpful to you. And if not, then it's at least like white noise in the background of whatever you're doing. Let me know what you're doing in the comments, because a lot of y'all like draw while you watch my videos, which is super cool, or you clean, or you do homework, or you play Animal Crossing. I love when people play Animal Crossing along to my videos. That makes me so happy. But yeah, let me know what you're up to down in the comments. And I am sick of talking about the build, so we're gonna do story time now. As I mentioned previously, besties, there were a lot of technical difficulties in getting this video out to all of you, including frequent power outages, which interrupted my recording. And I'm gonna be honest with you, some of the stuff I said at the beginning of this video, I can't remember which take ended up in the voiceover. So I know for a fact that earlier we pinned Snufkin. Snufkin was pinned. We pinned that for later. Ribbot, I remember saying, let's put a pin in Ribbot, but I can't remember if that take ended up in the video. So if it didn't, don't ignore that. Ignore it. It's whatever. If it did, I can't remember why I put a pin in Ribbot as I'm recording this section now. But I'm assuming it has to do with telling all of you to go watch my train station video, which I've done several times already. So I'm going to say we check that off. We have unpinned Ribbot. So now it's time to unpin Snufkin and talk about the Snufkin game. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, when we were unterraforming, that whole section was recorded on stream, and it was part of a two-part stream where during the first half, we played Snufkin Melody of Moomin Valley, which is currently my favorite game that I've played this year. If you didn't already know, I love Moomin. I am obsessed. I love the 90s anime in particular, and I love the new shows too. I love the Moomin Valley show as well. Basically, it's a children's storybook by Tove Jansson. It's a series of books. Queer icon Tove Jansson, about Moomin and his friends and family living in Moomin Valley, and they go on adventures and everything. And he has a friend, history will say they were good friends, Snufkin, who's like a wanderer. He loves nature, he hates authority, and they made a game where you play as Snufkin and you like liberate the forests of Moomin Valley from the police, who are like setting up the police, and the bourgeoisie are working in tandem to set up private parks throughout the city, and Snufkin is liberating the plants and animals from these private parks and making them like forests again. And it is the most delightful, wonderful game. It has stunning art and beautiful music, and it was just the most fun time to play it on stream. I loved it so much. And it was also the first time I ever got a code from a developer, which was so exciting to me. I reached out to them and I was like, hey, I'm a streamer and I want to share your game. I love Moomin. And they sent me a code, and at that point I had already bought the Switch version for myself because I wanted to play it on Switch, and they sent me a Steam code, and I was like, hey, can I give this away on my stream? And they were like, yeah, sure. So they were really kind, and I got to give away a copy of the game to someone else. And it was just a great experience. But yeah, Snufkin Melody of Moomin Valley, 10 out of 10 game. Highly recommend. It's on Steam and on Switch for $20, and it's a couple of hours of just the most delightful, fun platforming and puzzle solving, and I highly recommend. But as you can see, not to talk about the build again, besties, but I did change the time of day again. We're gonna do that a lot in this back half of the video, just because we're just checking things. We're just checking things. We're scooting things around and fidgeting with things, and like checking from the beach to see how it looks, and we're slowly building up a mountain out of these standees, and it's gonna look crazy from back here, but it's gonna look good from where we need it to look good from. Ooh, this was also tea. Fuyutsuki following Yui and like them giving each other looks. Like, that's crazy. They're crazy. Honestly, I kind of love the villager drama on this island, I'm not gonna lie. I do miss the closeness that I have with my Nautilus villagers. I say that as though, like, Nautilus isn't still there and I still play on it all the time. But, like, I do miss that in videos, I guess, of seeing, like, their funny little interactions. We'll come back to Nautilus in other future videos, but as we're focusing on Tokyo 3, I do enjoy having, like, the villagers who are analogs to Evangelion characters interacting, because it's like the characters are interacting with each other, like, in my head. That sounds very stupid, but it's how I feel, and it's sometimes very funny. But yeah, let's get back to story time. Like I mentioned, we're gonna unpin Snufkin because we're done with him. We've discussed the Snufkin game. It's great. I love it. And you know what? Here's a segue for you, besties. Speaking of queer literature, speaking of queer literature, the beginning of this explanation is not going to make sense, but just stick with me. I promise it will. But I've been talking for a long time about doing channel memberships where y'all basically, it's like a Patreon, but it's like attached to YouTube, and you pay for like extra content, like extra videos and extra live streams, and also emotes coming. That's it. That's a hint, bestie. That's a hint. But I'm actually at a place where I'm almost ready to like launch the channel memberships, which I'm very excited about. But I have a question for y'all. My plan for the channel memberships is to do 2 extra live streams a month that will be voted on by y'all, by the members, by the besties, and then also have an extra video a month. And I am not sure which video I want to post first. So as of right now, I will probably be able to launch the channel memberships in July. Unfortunately, I could not launch them for Pride Month, but that is relevant because the first video that I was going to post for the channel memberships was a desk tour of my desk. You could see all my little trinkets and my stuffed animals and things. But I've also mentioned in previous videos how I read a lot of manga and I have a substantial manga collection. And I thought it would be fun to do like a Pride Month themed manga recommendations video. So I thought that that would also make a really great first video for the channel memberships, even if I don't post it during Pride Month, even if they start next month. So hypothetically, if you wanted to become a channel member, or like if you were interested, which video would you rather see first? I might actually make like an actual poll for this. But that's just throwing that out there. I've mentioned before how one of the reasons I wanted to do channel members is specifically so I could post content, post streams where I curse, because I don't curse in my videos for a variety of reasons. But I do curse in my real life, in my day-to-day life, quite often. And there are certain games that I play where sometimes I just can't hold it in. One of those games is Zelda. One of those games is Pikmin. Also Splatoon, even though I do stream Splatoon just on the normal channel. And I won't stop doing that if we start channel memberships. But there are certain games that really put me in a certain place. And I wanted to have like, not necessarily a paywalled space, but like an age-walled space where I could do that, if that makes sense. And that also would make me feel better about doing manga recommendations, just because, you know, I'm a grown lady. And I like reading grown lady stuff. I'm not, don't take this out of context. I'm not going to share anything crazy in there. Don't get excited, besties. But I'm just saying, like, it would just make me feel better, because I know some of the besties are younger, and I'm very much like an auntie about internet safety and everything. So that's my plan. That's my idea. Let me know if you'd rather see a desk tour, or if you want manga recommendations first as like a channel members video, hypothetically, if you became a channel member. You don't have to. Besties, I understand I am advertising myself right now, but you absolutely do not have to become a channel member. I'm always going to post just regular Animal Crossing videos here, so no worries about that. This is just if you want extra, that's all. And it's not going to be expensive either. It's going to probably be like $2 a month. But yeah, that's that. That's checked off. We didn't put a pin in queer literature, but we can unpin it. That has been unpinned. So there you go. I also had to use the rescue service, and I walked in on their conversation about giving Dobie a gift, which, once again, the context of him being Fuyutsuki and Lolly being Yui makes that conversation much funnier. Peanut is no one. Peanut is just here because I need her emotes, because I don't have any sassy? Have any peppy villagers on my island, so she's here, and we love her. Not sassy villagers. Anyways, besties, moving on from that section, how about we do a little bit of a life update? So, unfortunately, like I said at the beginning of this video, there's no, like, dramatic story time about where I've been or anything. There is no bees in the walls incident, though I have been hearing noises in my walls recently. And I am scared that there's something in there, but I'm gonna just ignore it and hope that it goes away, because I can't deal with that again. But there's no, like, dramatic reason that I wasn't posting. I needed some time. I needed some time for me, for life stuff, for some health stuff. I'm fine though, besties, don't worry about me. But I took a little break, and I did some fun stuff too. I got to see my beautiful mod Bree. She came to visit. I love when she comes to visit. Love you, Bree. I also saw some shows, which was really exciting. I saw Baby Mother, who, if you're not in the know about Baby Mother, then you're missing out. You are missing out. Absolutely love her. That's the second time I've seen her in concert. And I also got to go to another concert, which I will talk to y'all about in a second. But let's quickly interject about the build again. I'm putting down this tile so that I know like where the photo op spot is, where you like stand to get the best angle. And I'm gonna put some items down on the ground so that y'all know where to stand if you come to Tokyo 3 and you like want to get the angle. But we're gonna decorate the beach a little bit. And as I explained, this is not like a real beach, quote unquote. Like it's not supposed to be like the ocean. Like this was a beach that appeared very suddenly, let's say. So I didn't really know quite how to decorate it. I have a whole playlist of how to decorate beaches that I did for Nautilus. So if y'all want to know how to decorate like a normal beach, check out those videos. But for this, I kind of just kept it simple and added like weeds and things and like a little bit of rocks. And I might actually change out that seashell for a can, like a piece of garbage. It occurred to me while I was reviewing the footage earlier, while I was like editing this together, that like even though the seashell makes sense, I feel like having trash on the beach would make more sense. So if you see a can in place of the seashell when you're watching the outro of this, that is why. That is one of the things that I might go back and change by the time y'all see this video. But yes, back to the concert experience, while my neighbor does laundry, of course. If you hear like a droning noise in the background, that's why. But I had a very unique experience, let's say, of Megan Thee Stallion's Hot Girl Summer Tour. Let it be known, excellent concert, incredible. Like, Megan was born to perform in stadiums. I'm so serious. Like, all she has are hits. All she has are hits. That whole set list was just hits. It was incredible. But that was actually after I got the chance to go to the show, because the saga to get to the show was somehow more dramatic than the show itself. So there were two Atlanta shows, a Friday and a Saturday. I got tickets to the Friday show at the last minute because I wanted them for super cheap. The day of the Friday show, at around noon, a water main burst in downtown Atlanta, which is where the basketball stadium is. And everyone's like, wait a minute, that's where the basketball stadium is. So you're saying the basketball stadium doesn't have water, it doesn't have AC. And also all of downtown also does not have water. So they did not tell anyone that the show had to be postponed until like an hour before doors, including Megan. She had to tweet out at like 6 p.m. like, hey, don't come to the show. The show's not happening tonight. But she stayed in the city, which I appreciate. She was like, we're gonna get this show done for y'all, and I appreciate that. Oh yeah, here I was using the simple panels to like make it look like there were sunken buildings, but that was a bad idea. It didn't look good, and the other things that I had were better. So trust your intuition, besties. That's what this is about. And Megan trusted her intuition, and she stayed in Atlanta and waited for our stupid mayor to get it together and get the city working again, which, to be honest, it took him way too long, because that same day, that same Friday, later at night, another water main burst in Midtown Atlanta. So now most of the middle part of the city was without water, was under a boil water advisory, and Megan had to postpone both of her shows 2 days. So our Friday show ended up being a Sunday show, and then the Saturday show ended up being a Monday show. The show went on, great, it was fine. But I did not have water in my apartment for almost a week, which is crazy. And I already had beef with the mayor. I'm not getting into that here, besties, but I already had beef with that man, and let me tell you, that beef it's not getting better. I have words for Mr. Mayor over there, let's just say. But the show itself was amazing, but the drama of getting to it, that was a lot. I'm extending the road, and I considered putting a staircase down to the beach, but once again, because of the nature of this beach, I love when she talks to the robots. I think it's so cute. Because of the nature of this beach, I thought it would make more sense to do a ladder, and also because it's easier to do a ladder, because it only takes like 2 seconds, and I already had a ladder anyway, so I just moved it. But we're about to come to the end of the build. I'm just gonna put some simple panels over here. This whole area, like I said, is gonna become like city core area, and we're gonna like cover up the town square with like big buildings and everything. It's gonna be cool. I have a vision for it, but for now, I just wanted to finish off the build, so I added some simple panels. I added some lamp posts and some my beautiful utility poles that I love so much. And we are almost at the end, and I'm going to change the time of day again to sunset when Shinji and Kaoru have their fated meeting. And here we are, besties, at the end of the video. Thank you all so much for making it this far. I really appreciate you for watching and listening to my rambling, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you enjoyed the build. I feel like it turned out really cool. It turned out in a way that I was not expecting it to, but I don't think that's a bad thing, and I think that it's a cool exercise for me as a builder. I'm really proud of what I was able to accomplish with this. But yeah, if you liked this video, make sure to leave a like. It really helps me out. If you really liked this video, you can leave a comment letting me know, and if you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe and hit the little bell to be notified every time I post or go live. I go live over here on YouTube playing Animal Crossing, doing villager hunts, playing Happy Home Paradise. I am working on this island as well, so if you want to see updates about Tokyo 3, I think I'm going to get back into a schedule of at least 2 speed builds a month for Tokyo 3, so be on the lookout for that. Ooh, and speaking of schedules, I mentioned earlier I have other fun plans for Pride Month, and that includes doing another charity live stream like we've done in previous years, so be on the lookout for that. But I want to take this as a moment to thank all of you who were at the previous charity live stream, the Island Tours stream. Y'all raised over $500 for MSF on that stream. Like, I genuinely have the most wonderful, kindest, most generous community on the internet. I'm so serious. Like, I'm so grateful to all of you, and I just don't even know what to say. Thank you for that. And if you want to see some beautiful islands, genuinely like gorgeous islands, check out that stream, because everyone's islands were so incredible. Like, everyone in chat was blown away. Every single island was just chef's kiss. Check out that VOD. Be on the lookout for another charity stream this month. And remember to check out Ibrahim's family's GoFundMe in the description. It would really mean a lot to me if you did. So thank you all again so much for watching. Happy Pride Month, besties, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye, besties.